Samuel had good big windows put in. When the weather is fine, it is pleasant to have a parlour that looks out over the garden.
The work I've done with this over the years, all the letters written, the bills read, the accounts added, well... If truth be told, I do not pay much attention to the cushions in this chamber. They cost me a great deal of money, but they are bright and they make a fine show for visitors to our house. I brought them from London last year, having commissioned a man there with whom I do business, and they were woven by incomers from the Low Countries who had fled from Papist persecution in their homeland. It is a sorrowful thought.
It is a pleasant thing to hear Mistress Wild play upon the virginal, although I think the lovely Lucy Greaves plays it far better. Mistress Wild is a deft hand at these keys. She can play all sorts of melodies, although Master Samuel...
It is not always pleasant to have to go into a house where somebody has died. If it smells of fever, you hurry to get out again. We all fear the smell of death, but somebody must write the inventory. It's not like that in here.
Arches of Triumph. This was one of Samuel's most prized possessions, connected to an even more prized memory. We had been married but a few years when the good King James rode through the Seven Arches into London, and what an entry it was! On the heels of an attack of the plague, which took many lives and broke still more spirits, the King's arrival was welcomed by all, and the streets were as packed with people as a barrel full of fish. It was barely the beginning of spring, but you would not have known that to be there. So many people made the streets practically summer warm, and the smells of wine and horses were everywhere.
It was me that put Samuel forward to be a churchwarden. He had hoped for it for a while. The other fellow that did it with me had 2 years of his term left to run, but his eyesight wasn't what it was. He kept greeting people by the wrong name in church on a Sunday. To be honest, you could hardly read his writing anymore. Every time I saw Samuel, he would drop a hint. My wife met Joan in the apothecary shop, and out of nowhere she started talking about how good he was at keeping accounts. Then she asked if we would like to come to their house that evening for some music and sweetmeats.
Ah, it is good to sit. It may be the middle of the working morning, and idle hands are the devil's workshop, but I think that God will not begrudge me a few minutes' rest in my new chair by this warm fire. And I have waited a long time for you, my chair. It seemed to take long enough for the craftsman to finish you off and for you to be transported from Salisbury. I explained to him exactly what I wanted, a fine English oak chair, heavy to lift, solid arms on which my hands may rest, fashioned to the best of his skill, and in the latest style, please. I may be more than 50 years old. Why, it is Joan's apostle spoon. I wonder at her leaving it out here when it should be packed away securely in this chest. Here, fashioned into the top of the handle, is St. John the Apostle, holding out his cup of poison.
Samuel had good big windows put in. When the weather is fine, it is pleasant to have a parlour that looks out over the garden.
The work I've done with this over the years, all the letters written, the bills read, the accounts added, well, many years have passed, that is the sum of it.